potency of the Lord. Those who are too sinful cannot appreciate the transcendental glories of the Lord, and therefore it is better not to instruct them in this matter. 10th, to not have complete faith in the chanting of the holy names, and to maintain material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must guard against these offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success.
Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakti. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone. It's Sunday, June 5th. Welcome to the Sunday program of the reading of the Delhi edition of the Srimad Bhagavatam by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, founder and Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Hare Krishna movement or the Krishna Consciousness movement. Just a few announcements before I introduce the speaker. I'd like to apologize for the japa background. As Ishan Prabhu pointed out, we don't need a background like this, but that's the one that I started with, and I'm waiting to see if I can either learn how to create a new background and create a video of that, or I'll ask someone to help. If anybody is willing to help with that, please get in touch with us and we can create a proper japa background. Also, I wanted to apologize for the Jaya Radha Madhava, because the translations are not accurate, but that is why until we find a good recording or a proper translation with the recording, I will present the original translation from the 1974 songbook before I play that Jaya Radha Madhava bhajan, which is so nice. So welcome again, everyone. The class is being conducted by His Grace Yaśodā-nandana Dāsa, who is a senior disciple of Srila Prabhupada. We also have a senior disciple, Ishan Prabhu, who had a lot of association with Srila Prabhupada in the very early days. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu first saw Srila Prabhupada as a teenager and soon joined the Hare Krishna movement in the 1960s. He received his first initiation from Srila Prabhupada in August 1969. He was instrumental in funding the construction of 3 major temples along with the Guru Kripa Swami and the devotees of that traveling party. The 3 temples were the Krishna Balaram Mandir in Vrindavan, India, the Mayapur Chandrodaya Mandir in Mayapur near Calcutta, West Bengal in India, and the Sri Sri Radha Madan Mohan Temple in Hyderabad, Andhra Pradesh. He traveled extensively throughout South India with Guru Kripa Swami in 1972 and 1973, and in 1975 and 1976 with Achyutananda Swami. I just also like to point out that if you see me pausing for a little bit, it's because I'm admitting people into the conference as we go along, so that's why I pause a little bit. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu was made in charge of the installation of the deities in the Hyderabad temple in 1976 and the temple in Fiji in 1977. Then in late 1976, Srila Prabhupada selected him to manage the Bhaktivedanta Swami Gurukul in Vrindavan. So now I would like to turn the program over to Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu.
I just want to make a little clarification here. The term His Grace is much more applicable to all the Prabhus here and to Ishan Prabhu. In my case, it should be HDG, His Disgrace Yaśodā-nandana. So thank you. But the term is more applicable to Ishan Prabhu, Dharma Bhavana, and all the wonderful devotees here. Okay, today what we'll be doing is celebrating the 2 great exalted Vaishnavas in the Gaudiya Sampradaya. We have Śyāmānanda Paṇḍita, who is a very important devotee in the history of the Gaudiya Sampradaya. And we also have Vakreśvara Paṇḍita and a direct associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His appearance day is today according to the Mayapur calendar. Śyāmānanda Prabhu appeared on last Wednesday on the 1st of July. We'll be seeing, this is a picture here of Śyāmānanda Prabhu that we've found. Very exalted soul. This is a picture of him discovering an ornament of Srimati Radharani in Vrindavan. And this is a special temple of Śyāmānanda Prabhu in Vrindavan. This is a special place there. This is his samadhi. The samadhi, and also the place where you found the Nupur, a special ornament of Srimati Radharani. These are the deities of Sri Radha Śyāmasundar, the deities of Śyāmānanda Goswami. The Śyāmānanda temple is very close to the Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan. It's on the same street. Srila Prabhupada explains the unique position of Sri Śyāmānanda Goswami. Let me try to get a bit more light in here. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained this mode of devotional service in 3 stages, and therefore those worshipable deities were installed in Vrindavana by different Goswamis. They are very dear to the Gaudiya Vaishnavas there, who visit the temples at least once a day. Besides the temples of these 3 deities, many other temples have been established in Vrindavana, such as the temple of Radha Damodar of Jiva Goswami, the temple of Shyamasundar of Śyāmānanda Goswami, the temple of Gokulananda of Lokanath Goswami, and the temple of Radharamana of Gopala Bhatta Goswami. These are 7 principal temples over 400 years old that are the most important of the 5,000 temples now existing in Vrindavana. The foregoing was from the Adi Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 1, text 19. Next, Srila Prabhupada explains, there are many Vaishnava families in Bengal whose members, although not actually born Brahmanas, act as acharyas by initiating disciples and offering the sacred thread as enjoined in the Vaishnava Tantras. For example, in the families of Thakur Raghunandana Acharya, Thakur Krishna Dasa, Navanihoda, and Rasikananda Deva, a disciple of Śyāmānanda Prabhu, the sacred thread ceremony is performed as it is for the caste Goswamis. And this system is continued for the past 300 to 400 years. Accepting disciples born in Brahmana families, they are bona fide spiritual masters who have the facility to worship the Shalagram Shila, which is worship with the deity. As of this writing, Shalagram Shila worship has not yet been introduced in our Krishna Consciousness movement, but soon it will be introduced in all our temples as an essential function of Archana Marga, deity worship. This was from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila 745. Next, when Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami went to Vrindavana, there was not a single temple, but by their preaching, they were gradually able to construct various temples. Sanatana Goswami constructed the Madan Mohan temple, and Rupa Goswami constructed the Govindaji temple. Similarly, their nephew Jiva Goswami constructed the Radha Damodar temple. Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami constructed the Radha Ramana temple. Sri Lokanath Goswami constructed the Gokulananda temple, and Śyāmānanda Goswami constructed the Shyamasundar temple. In this way, many temples were gradually constructed. For preaching, construction of temples is also necessary. The Goswamis not only engaged in writing books, but also constructed temples, because both are needed for preaching work. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted the cult of his Sankirtan movement to spread all over the world. Now that the International Society for Krishna Consciousness has taken up this task of preaching the cult of Lord Chaitanya, its members should not only construct temples in every town and village of the globe, but also distribute books that have already been written and further increase the number of books. Both distribution of books and construction of temples must continue side by side in parallel lines. This was from Adi Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 7, text 164. Next, the Kshetrachari Gopinath is situated about 5 miles away from the Baleshwar station on the Northeastern Railway, formerly known as the Bengal Mayapur Railway. This station is situated a few miles away from the famous Kargapur Junction station. Sometimes the charge of the temple was given to Śyāmānanda from Gopi Jana Vallabhapura, which lies on the border of the district of Medinipura. Śyāmānanda was a descendant of Rasikananda Murari, the chief disciple of Śyāmānanda Gosvāmī. This is from Madhya Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 1, text 97. Next, purport. There is a railway station named Vakreśvara, and 5 miles to the west is the village of Remuna. The temple of Kshetrachari Gopinath still exists in this village, and within the temple, the Samadhi tomb of Rasikananda Prabhu, the chief disciple of Śyāmānanda Goswami, can still be found. From Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 4, text 12. Next, Nashudraha Bhagavat Bhaktastepi Bhagavato Tamaha Sarva Varneshu Te Shudra Yena Bhakta Janardane. One who is actually advanced in spiritual knowledge of Krishna is never a Shudra, even though he may have been born in a Shudra family. However, even if a Vipra or Brahmana is very expert in the 6 Brahmanical activities, Patan Patana, Yajana Yajana, Dhana Pratigraha, and also very well versed is also well versed in the Vedic hymns, he cannot become a spiritual master unless he's a Vaishnava. But if one is born in the family of Chandalas, yet is well versed in Krishna consciousness, he can become a guru. These are the Shastric injunctions, and strictly following these injunctions, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as a Grihasta named Sri Vishwambara, was initiated by a sannyasi guru named Ishwarapuri. Similarly, Sri Nityananda Prabhu was initiated by Madhavendra Puri, a sannyasi. According to others, however, he was initiated by Lakshmipati Tirtha. Advaita Acharya, although a Grihasta, was initiated by Madhavendra Puri. And Sri Rasikananda, although born in the Brahmanan family, was initiated by Sri Śyāmānanda Prabhu, who was not born in a caste Brahmin family. There are many instances in which a born Brahmana took initiation from a person who was not born in a Brahmana family. The Brahmanical symptoms are explained in Srimad Bhagavatam 7:11:35, wherein it is stated, Yasya lakshanam proktam pumso varna bhivyanjakam yadanyatrapi drishyeta tatteneva vinirdishet. If a person is born in a Shudra family, but has all the qualities of a spiritual master, he should be accepted not only as a Brahmana, but as a qualified spiritual master also. This is also the instruction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura therefore introduced the sacred thread ceremony for all Vaishnavas according to the rules and regulations. This is from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 8:128. We will read a few sections here, a few of the writings about the exalted Vakreśvara Pandit. Vakreśvara Pandit was a very unique follower of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Disappearance Day is today. I can start reading from the actual book. From Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, chapter 6, text 49 and 50. Adi Lila, chapter 6, text 49 and 50. Srivas Haridas Ramdas Gadadhar, Murari Mukunda Chandrasekhar Vakreśvara, Isaba Pandit Loga Parama Mahatva, Chaitanya Radasya Sabaya Kare Unmata. Well, there's also a picture of Vakreśvara Pandit and his deity is there. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srivas, Haridas, Ramdas, Gadadhar, Murari, Mukunda, Chandrasekhara, and Vakreśvara are all glorious and all are learned scholars. But the sentiment of servitude to Lord Chaitanya makes them mad in ecstasy. From Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, chapter 6, text 49-50. Next, Vakreśvara Pandit Prabhupada Priya Bhritya, Ekabhave Chabish Prahara Yanha Nritya. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Vakreśvara Pandit, the fifth branch of the tree, was a very dear servant of Lord Chaitanya's. He could dance with constant ecstasy for 72 hours. Wow. Purport. In a Gorganodesha Dipika, verse 71, it is stated that Vakreśvara Pandit was an incarnation of Aniruddha, one of the quadruple expansions of Vishnu, Vasudeva, Sankarsana, Aniruddha, and Pradyumna. He could dance wonderfully for 72 continuous hours. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu played in dramatic performances in the house of Srivas Pandit, Vakreśvara Pandit was one of the chief dancers. So he danced continuously for that length of time. Sri Govinda Dasa, an Oriya devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, has described the life of Vakreśvara Pandit in his book Gaura Krishnodaya. There are many disciples of Vakreśvara Pandit in Orissa, and they are known as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, although they are Oriyas. Among these disciples are Sri Gopal Guru and his disciple Sri Dhyanachandra Gosvāmī. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita Adila, chapter text 17. It's quite amazing how a devotee could dance for 72 hours continuously. How many days is that? 24? 3 days? Wow. Apane Mahaprabhu Gayan Nritya Kale, Prabhur Charane Dari Vakreśvara Bale. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally sang while Vakreśvara Pandit danced, and thus Vakreśvara Pandit fell at the lotus feet of the Lord and spoke as follows from Adi Lila, chapter 10, text 18. Dasha Sahasra Gandharva Mora Deha Chandra Mukha Taragaya Mudi Nachantare Mora Sukha. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. O Chandramukha, please give me 10,000 Gandharvas. Let them sing as I dance, and then I will be greatly happy. Purport. The Gandharvas, who are the residents of Gandharvaloka, are celebrated as celestial singers. Whenever singing is needed in the celestial planets, the Gandharvas are invited to sing. The Gandharvas can sing continuously for days, and therefore Vakreśvara Pandit wanted to dance as they sang. From Adi Lila, chapter 10, text 19. Very exalted transcendental personality. Bhagavati Devananda Vakreśvara Kripate, Bhagavatera Bhakti Artha Poila Prabhuaiti. Translation. Devananda Pandit was a professional reciter of Srimad Bhagavatam, but by the mercy of Vakreśvara Pandit and by the grace of the Lord, he understood the devotional interpretation of the Bhagavatam. Purport. In the Chaitanya Bhagavata, Madhya Lila, chapter 21, it is stated that Devananda Pandit and Sarvabhaumacharya's father, Visharada, lived in the same village. Devananda Pandit was a professional reciter of Srimad Bhagavatam, But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not like his interpretation of it. In the present town of Navadvip, which was formerly known as Kuliya, Lord Chaitanya showed such mercy to him that he gave up the Mayavadi interpretation of Srimad Bhagavatam and learned how to explain Srimad Bhagavatam in terms of bhakti. Formerly, when Devananda was expounding the Mayavadi interpretation, Srivas Thakur was once present in his meeting, and when he began to cry, Devananda's students drove him away. Some days later, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed that way, and when he met Devananda, he chastised him severely because of his Mayavad interpretation of Srimad Bhagavatam. At that time, Devananda had little faith in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as an incarnation of Lord Krishna. But one night, sometimes later, Vakreśvara Pandit was a guest in his house. And when he explained the science of Krishna, Devananda was convinced about the identity of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thus, he was induced to explain Srimad Bhagavatam according to the Vaishnava understanding. In the Gaur Ganadesha Dipika, verse 106, it is described that he was formerly Bhaguri Muni, who was the Sabha Pandit who recited Vedic literature in the house of Nanda Maharaja. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, chapter 10, text 77. The three brothers, Govinda, Madhava, and Vasudeva Gosha, all belong to a Kayastra family. Govinda established the Gopinath temple in Agra Dweep, where he resided. Madhava Gosha was expert in performing kirtana. No one within this world could compete with him. He was known as the singer of Vrindavana and was very dear to Sri Nityananda Prabhu. It is said that when the three brothers performed some kirtana, immediately Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda would dance in ecstasy. According to the Gaur Ganodesha Dipika, text 188, the three brothers were formerly Kalavati, Rasollasa, and Gunatunga, who recited the songs composed by Sri Vishaka Gopi. The three brothers were among one of the 7 parties that performed kirtana when Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu attended the Rath Yatra festival at Jagannath Puri. Vakreśvara Pandit was the chief dancer in their party. This is vividly described in the Madhya Lila, chapter 13, verses 42 and 43. This was from Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, chapter 10, text 115. Kashi Mishra Pradyumna Mishra Rai Bhavananda Yanhar Milani Prabhu Paila Ananda. Translation. In the list of devotees at Jagannath Puri, which begins with Paramananda Puri, Swarup Damodar, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and Gopinathacharya, Kashi Mishra was the 5th, Pradyumna Mishra the 6th, and Bhavananda Rai the 7th. Lord Chaitanya took great pleasure in meeting with them. Purport. In Jagannath Puri, Lord Chaitanya lived at the house of Kashi Mishra, who was the priest of the king. Later, this house was inherited by Vakreśvara Pandit and then by his disciple Gopal Guru Gosvāmī, who established there a deity of Radha Kanta. The Gaur Ganodesha Dipika 193 states that Kashi Mishra was formerly Kubja in Mathura. Pradyumna Mishra, inhabitant of Orissa, was a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Pradyumna Mishra was born of a Brahmana family and Ramananda Rai of a non-Brahmin family. Yet, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised Pradyumna Mishra to take instruction from Ramananda Rai. This incident is described in the Antya-lila, chapter 5. Bhavananda Rai was the father of Sri Ramananda Rai. His residence was in Alalnath Brahmagiri, which is about 12 miles west of Jagannath Puri. By caste, he belonged to the Karana community of Orissa, whose members were sometimes known as Kayastas and sometimes as Shudras. But he was the governor of Madras under the control of King Prataprudra of Jagannath Puri, from Adilila, chapter 10, text 131. Chakrabarti Śyāmānanda Sadav Rajabasi Mahashaka Madhyatanho Sudhrida Vishvasi. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Śyāmānanda Chakrabarti, the 33rd branch, who always lived in Vrindavana with firm conviction, is considered an important branch of Gadadhar Pandit. Purport. The Gaur Ganadesha Deepika, verse 183, mentions that Śyāmānanda Chakrabarti was formerly Lavanga Manjari. The Shaka Nirnaya, written by Yaśodā-nandana Dāsa, also names other branches of Gadadhar Pandit as follows: 1. Madhvācārya, 2. Gopal Dasa, 3. Hridayananda, 4. Vallabha Bhatta, the Vallabha Sampradaya or Pushtimaga Sampradaya is very famous. 5. Madhu Pandit, this famous devotee, lived near Kadadaha in the village known as Sanibhona Grama, about 2 miles east of the Kadadaha station, and constructed the temple of Gopinathji in Vrindavana. 6. Achyutananda. 7. Chandrasekhara. 8. Vakreśvara Pandit. 9. Damodar. 10. Bhagavanacharya. 11. Ananda Acharya Varya. 12. Krishna Dasa. 13. Paramananda Bhattacharya. 14. Bhavananda Gosvāmī. 15. Chaitanya Dasa. 16. Lokanatha Bhatta. This devotee, who lived in the village of Talakadi in the district of Yashohara and constructed the temple of Radha Vinod, was the spiritual master of Narottam Das Thakur and a great friend of Bhugarbha Goswami. 17. Govindacharya. 18. Akurara Thakura. 19. Sanketa Acharya. 20. Pratipaditya. 21. Kamalakanta Acharya. 22. Yadava Acharya. And 23. Narayana Padihari, a resident of Jagannath Puri. This is from Adilila, chapter 12, text 88. What is very important about all these readings and the names of these great acharyas, all these personalities, according to Srila Prabhupada, are all considered Nitya Siddha, eternal associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is a very, very special position. It is not that some of them became advanced or became great devotees. They were great devotees from birth. Very, very special situation. We will continue reading. First, I'd like to hear what Ishan Prabhu would like to comment about all these transcendental activities of these great devotees.
Hare Krishna. One thing that caught my attention in these discussions in the different purports, that people who are not in the Brahmana family have the power to initiate people who are in Brahman family, etc. So this is a teaching just like Haridas Thakur is the Namacharya for chanting the holy name of Krishna. So, but he was born in a Muslim family. There are so many examples, and many of these examples were being cited today, brought to our attention by Srila Prabhupada. So sometimes, in other words, the bottom line is that to be a Brahmin is not a rank. To be a Brahmin means to have certain qualification. And what is that qualification? the qualification of a Brahmin, and we have also in Krishna book where the personal friend of Krishna from childhood, he went to see, and Rukmini, she sent the Brahmin messenger to Krishna, come and save me, and they want to marry me to this, so make me your wife. So in both cases, Krishna received these Brahmins. One of the Brahmins, he had old torn clothing, and from walking on so much on the dirty, dusty paths, Krishna put the Brahmin on the bed of Rukmini, silken bed, and began to feed him with his own hands. And when he was tired to lay back, Krishna comes close and puts his feet on his lap and massages his feet like a servant. Krishna is in the position to be prince or king in Dwarka, and he's taking this. Why does Krishna worship the Brahmins? Namo Mahabhadanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate. Why is Krishna so? Because a Brahmin, Srila Prabhupada, can become what? A Brahmin can become a Vaishnava. Why is it that a Brahmin can become a Vaishnava? It's because a Brahmin, like he was said, Krishna was asking, is your heart? What are the qualities of the Brahmin? Samo damastapa shocham. Samo. To be always internally peaceful. And when Bhagavad Gita 51 to 53, 18th chapter, what is the quality? Shanti, that always dhyana yoga paranityam. This is in 51 to 53. Dhyana, always meditation. Dhyana yoga in the fixed up. Dhyana para, transcendentally, nityam, Srila Prabhupada translates 24 hours a day. Always in a peaceful condition of heart. And what is the result of being always in a peaceful condition of heart? Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma. Next verse. Nasochati na kangsha. What is that? That one become joyful within the heart. When they are from peace comes joy. And from joy, what does Krishna say? Nasochati. When we become joyfully within, nakangshati. No more hankering for material. No more lamentation over the loss of anything. This is the Brahminical quality. He says, oh, Krishna, and then you start no longer to be envious, but to see the beauty, the sama sarveshu bhuteshu, to see the spiritual beauty in everyone. And then Krishna says, punchline, Mad Bhaktim Labhate Param. Now you can become a devotee. Because this is a prerequisite. To become Brahminical is a prerequisite to spiritual life. It's not a rank that we receive. It's a quality that we cultivate in order to become a devotee. As soon as we become Brahminical, we can taste what this Krishna consciousness. We can learn from a real devotee like Srila Prabhupada. What is this taste? To imbibe this taste of the ability to resonate with the heart of a devotee. First one has to be nasochati nakangshati. Then immediately the door is open. Therefore, this is the real quality that all these pure Vaishnavas have. That Srila Prabhupada wants to create a community, a society of Brahminical quality, because a Brahmin can become a Vaishnava. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. We had a very I think your sound there. We had a very
Oops. I've muted Ishan Prabhu. Now you can talk.
So we had a very interesting encounter in South India with one of the big Shankarācharyas, Achyutananda and myself, where the Shankarācharya looked at Achyutananda's Brahmin thread, and he told Achyutananda, you cannot wear this pavitra, this Brahmin thread, because in your life, you ate meat. And Achyutananda says, well, we are actually lower than Shudras. We're not even Shudras. We were born as Mlechas, lower than Shudras. But it says in the Shastra that Namno hi yavati shakti hi papa nirharane harehe tavat kartum nashaknoti patakam patakin naraha. That verse is Namno, N-A-M-N-O, Yavati, Y-A-V-A-T-I, Shaktihi. What this verse from Vishnu Purana means, it's quoted by Srila Prabhupada in the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, is that if one chants the name of Krishna or Vishnu once, he cannot commit enough sins in an entire, for millions of lives that the name of Krishna cannot purify. In other words, he asked them, which is more powerful? The eating of meat or the name of Vishnu described in the Shastra? And the Swami obviously had to agree. But they're very stubborn. They will not agree. They think that you can only be a Brahmin if you're physically born in a Brahmin family. But Prabhupada many times told us, Kalo Shudra Sambhavaha. In the Skanda Purana, there's also a description, Janmana Jayate Shudraha, that in the age of Kali Yuga, everyone is born as a Shudra. But how does one become a Brahmana? Kalo Shudra Sambhava Janma. Then Samskarat Bhavet Dvijaha. By proper samskara, one becomes a twice born. There is a reason Srila Prabhupada introduced the process of initiation with at least a 6 months or a year waiting period called, in Sanskrit, it's called Purascharya. This is the preliminary activities of preparation for initiation. The chanting of 16 rounds. Oh, here's the verse exactly here. Namno hi yavati shakti hi papa nirharane harehe. Tavat kartum nashaknoti patakam pataki naraha. This is by Srila Prabhupada. It is said in the Brihad Vishnu Purana. Also, in the Prema Vivarta by Jagadananda Pandit, it is said, Eka Krishna name papir yata papakshay. Bahu janme se papi karite narai. This means that by once chanting the holy name of the Lord, one can be freed from the reactions of more sins that one can even imagine performing. The holy name is so spiritually potent that simply by chanting the holy name, one can be freed from the reaction of all sinful activities. What then is to be said of those who chant the holy name regularly or worship the deity regularly? For such purified devotees, freedom from sinful reaction is certainly assured. This does not mean, however, that one should intentionally commit sinful acts and think himself free from the reactions because he's chanting the holy name. Such a mentality is a most abominable offense at the lotus feet of the holy name. Namno balad yasya hi papa buddhihi. The Lord's holy name certainly has the potency to neutralize all sinful activities. But if one repeatedly and intentionally commits sins while chanting the holy name, he is most condemned. Now, this, I don't know exactly which purport this is. There's a similar purport in the 6th canto. 6th canto, chapter 13, text 8 and 9. Thank you for that. Whoever put that there, I believe our good friend Neil Shyama Prabhu or Ram Raghava. The point being that Prabhupada's system, when he introduced initiation, the whole system was based on a 6 months preparation program. This was done, the devotees would attend Mangalarti, chant Japa, attend Bhagavatam class, worship Tulsi, go on Sankirtan, morning and evening classes, take prasadam, and a whole preparation system. Then one would be initiated. Now, somebody may say, well, there are some cases where Prabhupada initiated without that waiting period. Yes, that may be. But as the movement got more and more established and Prabhupada's standard became the standard throughout the entire society, this was the system. In Sanskrit, it's called Purashcharya, the preparatory activities before initiation. This is also described in the Madhya Lila of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Then the other point being that Ishan Prabhu mentioned about a Brahmana. Now, there's a very famous verse which all of you have heard and most probably know, that famous verse of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Naham Vipro Nachanara Patir Napiveshana Shudru. I'm not a Brahmana, I'm not a Kshatriya, I'm not a Vaishya, I'm not a Shudra, I'm not a sannyasi, I'm not a Grihastha. What am I? Gopi Bhartuhu Padakamalayor Dasa 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 Anudasaha. I'm simply the servant of the servants, the servant of the gopis. Oh, something is coming. Here we go. Here's the exact verse in Sanskrit. Naham vipro nachanara patir napiveshuna shudro. Naham varni nachagriya patir novanastu yatirva. Kintu prodyan nikila paramananda purnamritabder. Gopi Bhartuhu Padakamalayor Dasa Dasa Nudasaha. Interestingly, this verse is recommended to be chanted before one does deity worship in the morning or any deity worship. It's called a process called Bhutta Shuddhi, that we're contemplating that we are worshiping Krishna as an eternal spirit soul, rendering service to the lotus feet of Krishna. Now, the point about being a Brahmana, it's an exalted position because of good past activities, but this is not sufficient. In other words, as it was described in that verse explained by Ishan Prabhu, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma. In order to raise oneself to the platform of bhakti, first one should acquire the Brahmanical qualifications. Then one can engage in bhakti, but bhakti is a gradual process of realizing. And Prabhupada is given the highest understanding, the highest explanation of bhakti. It is a great offense by some people who think that His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement or the Hare Krishna Movement, that this personality only taught the basic fundamentals and somebody else, some other advisor, is going to teach the higher teachings or the higher principles. That is simply nonsense. If you study Chaitanya Charitamrita, every one of Prabhupada's writings, he's giving everything. In the Madhya Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 19 and 20, the instruction to Rupa Gosvāmī and Sanatana Gosvāmī, everything is explained very clearly. Everything is given. All the science from the beginning of sadhana bhakti to bhava bhakti to prema bhakti, everything is given. Now, Prabhupada, he was very busy traveling around the world, trying to manage a very large society, advising disciples, talking to everyone. He would have been able to do a lot more if we as disciples had been more submissive and more capable of following his instructions. But he did what he could according to the time, place, and circumstance, and he left us the essence of all the teaching. Again, one should not be victimized by the false propaganda of those who think that some other advisors know more than Prabhupada or are giving a higher teaching. That is simple nonsense. Very important point. Now, I want to address a few points here because we've been reading this Acharya for the Golden Age, the unique historical position of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Prabhupāda. I did a little bit of compilation of quotes, but this book was put together, edited, compiled, and finalized by Narasimha Prabhu, who's currently in Hawaii, very busy with a Varnashram project. We will read a few quotes from that. The Lord sends one of His reliable sons or a servant. The Lord unwillingly creates this material world, but He descends in His personal form or sends one of His reliable sons or a servant or a reliable author like Vyasadeva to give instruction. he himself also instructs in his speeches of Bhagavad Gita. This propagative work goes on side by side with the creation to convince the misguided living entities who are rotting in this material world to come back to him and surrender unto him. Therefore, the last instruction of Bhagavad Gita is this: give up all your manufacturing engagements in the material world and just surrender unto me. I shall protect you from all sinful reactions. From Srimad Bhagavatam 3:21-20 purport. AOE stands for Authorized Original Edition. Next, the Lord empowers a special devotee to teach people their constitutional position. I just want a brief note here. Many times when Prabhupada read these purports, he's not directly saying that he was referring to himself, but judging from his activities, his accomplishment, and his super empowerment, we can easily see that he is referring indirectly or very subtly to himself. Quote, the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna personally descends to teach people that their position in the material world is a mistaken one. The Lord again comes as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to induce people to take to Krishna consciousness. The Lord also empowers a special devotee to teach people their constitutional position. From Madhya Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 19, text 114. Next, from Ishopanishad, mantra 11, quote, the personality of Godhead from his kingdom sends his bona fide servants to propagate this mission of going back to Godhead, and sometimes he comes himself to do this work. Now, this is very important. Like today, we're reading about Śyāmānanda Gosvāmī. He is such a personality. And in these purports that we were reading, we're reading about the names of so many of these associates of Lord Chaitanya and associates. These are all Nitya Siddha devotees who fit that description to propagate this mission of going back to Godhead. Very important. One last quotation here. Quote, generally, ever-liberated personalities live in the spiritual world as associates of Lord Krishna, and they are known as Krishna Parishada, associates of the Lord. Their only business is enjoying Lord Krishna's company, and even though such eternally liberated persons come within this material world to serve the Lord's business, they enjoy Lord Krishna's company without stoppage. From Madhya Lila, chapter 2, text 14 and 15. I just want to relate a little story here. Bhaktivedanta Swami in Calcutta went to Srila Prabhupada and asked Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, when the spiritual master closes his eyes, what does he see? And Prabhupada chastised him and said, that question you do not need to ask. And Bhaktivedanta Swami very touched, but he says, but Srila Prabhupada, the pure devotee, when he closes his eyes, what does he see? Prabhupada says, yes. The pure devotee, when he closes his eyes, he sees in his heart the pastimes of Radha Krishna manifest 24 hours a day, unquote. And everybody was like, wow. Another time, Palika and some other devotees were arranging the wigs for Radha Krishna. So they went in Srila Prabhupada's room and asked Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, could you let us know if the wig like this or like that is actually the proper way? And Prabhupada looked, no, do it the other way. And they readjust the wig. Then Prabhupada says, yes, Krishna personally likes it like that. So Prabhupada is not just an ordinary devotee who became advanced. No, he's in direct touch with Krishna 24 hours a day. You may have heard one time that Prabhupada was in Los Angeles and a journalist asked Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, what do you think of Los Angeles? How do you like Los Angeles? And very unique situation. Prabhupada stopped, put his cane down, says, I'm not in Los Angeles. He looked towards the sky, he says, I'm in Vaikuntha. So this is the unique position of Srila Prabhupada, our eternal guide and spiritual master. Ishan Prabhu, maybe you'd like to comment or offer any chastisement or admonishment or whatever is appropriate.
Hare Krishna. There's two ways of saying the same thing. One is, it should be like this, and the other way is, it shouldn't be like that. They're the same instruction, but there are two ways of saying the same thing. So Srila Prabhupada is saying a pure devotee is like this. A pure devotee always sees Krishna within his heart. A pure devotee comes from Krishna Loka, planet down to us. A pure devotee. So many. And then he tells us the Acharya, if one sees him like he's an ordinary human being, he has a hellish mentality. One way is the positive way of saying, and the other way is the negative way of saying. Srila Prabhupada is telling us, for anyone who has ears, that I'm not one of you. I'm not like when the prime minister or the president goes into the prison house. So when Srila Prabhupada goes into the prison house of the material world, we shouldn't think he's one of us. He's not one of us. So he's saying that is why he tells us again and again, one should not see the real bona fide Acharya as an ordinary human being. Why? Because he's coming from Krishna Loka. Two ways of telling us who he is. So we have to understand. Then how can we make any... Then it's also in Nectar of Instruction, you'll see that it is an offense to give him advice or to correct him in any way. But in ISKCON today, they're correcting what they have letters that say, we have found that Srila Prabhupada had made mistake here, mistake there. So that is another issue. But the real thing is, so we should, and Chaitanya Charitamrita, a real devotee of Krishna, we should see him and relate to him like we would relate to Krishna himself, like we would relate to God himself. Whatever Srila Prabhupada says, yes, no, whatever, and it's all perfect. Everything about Srila Prabhupada is as perfect as Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Very important. Well, just recently, I had exchange with Ishan Prabhu and some other devotees about this exact topic of how should we understand the position of the Acharya and why did Srila Prabhupada, many of his writings and purports and letters and his private conversations, admonish devotees and warn devotees not to think the Acharya or the spiritual master or the guru as an ordinary man. What I wanted to do is read one or two sections, because this is a very important point. Because there are some devotees and disciples of Prabhupada who go on the internet and openly criticize him. There is one devotee who made a statement that Prabhupada exceeded his authority, especially when he talked about women, about society, about cosmology, about going to the moon, about so many things. So in other words, if one starts to digress or divert his faith in the Acharya and starts to criticize, even in a subtle way, this is not likely to produce a very good result. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 21, text number 12. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 21, text number 12, purport. Prithu Maharaj had no control over the Brahmana Kula, which refers to the learned scholars in Vedic knowledge, nor over the Vaishnavas, who are above the considerations of Vedic knowledge. It is therefore said, I'm going to quote the whole Sanskrit verse in Prabhupada's translation, Arche Vishnu Shiladir Guru Shunara Matir Vaishnave Jati Buddhir Vishnur Va Vaishnavanam Kalimala Matane Padatir Teambu Buddhi Sri Vishnur Namni Mantre Sakala Kalusha He Shabda Samanya Buddhir Vishnu Sarveshvareshe Taditara Samadir Yasyaba Narakisa. One who thinks the deity in the temple to be made of wood or stone, who thinks of the spiritual master in the disciplic succession as an ordinary man, who thinks the Vaishnava in the Achyuta Gotra to belong to a certain caste or creed, and who thinks of Charanamrita or Ganges water as ordinary water, is taken to be as a resident of hell from the Padma Purana. So this is a very important point, because we see that even though some people come in contact with a pure devotee, they do not understand. That's why we keep many times as part of this program citing one of Prabhupada's purport in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in the Madhya Lila, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was inviting his servant who wanted to go see Krishna at night in the water of the Yamuna. What really going on? There was a fisherman with a light on his boat, and people thought, the general people thought, that the fisherman was Krishna dancing on Kaliya. And Prabhupada explains in the purport that even though one may remain constantly with the spiritual master, unless one is enlightened by the knowledge given by the spiritual master, he cannot see things as they are, even though he may remain constant. This whole physical, living, personal association, because we've experienced, and I've been asked this question by many devotees. I've even had children recently in America asking me, why is it that some disciples of Prabhupada who had so much personal, physical, association with him, especially in the beginning, why is it that these people, after the manifested presence of Prabhupada, and in some instances during the manifested presence, but the purpose of this discussion, why is it that some of these people deviated so much, and some of these people introduced blatant, concocted philosophies and procedures in Srila Prabhupada's society? Because physical association is no guarantee of success. Our good friend Ishan Prabhu many times quoted that verse, purport in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 72, first line, that one may get this understanding very quickly in a second, or not after millions of years. Just like the example of the Gaudiya Math, one of the foremost disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta, after his departure, ended up to be one of the biggest deviant, who gave him up and started to preach against him. So it is no guarantee of ultimate success just because one has physical association with a pure devotee. One has to guard himself, never to think Gurushu Naramatya, to think the spiritual master an ordinary person. Yeshua, I see that you're itching to say something. Hare Krishna.
Oh, am I open? You can hear? Hare Krishna. This idea, I saw recently one Vyas Puja offering where the devotee said, he gave the impression or the idea that those who were with Srila Prabhupada, they had a more glorious blessing than all of us. And the idea is, Srila Prabhupada writes in the Nectar of Instruction that a neophyte devotee cannot recognize a pure devotee. When Srila Prabhupada is alone with any of us, or in a room, he's relating to us just like we're a friend of his. He will, but sometimes it won't be always so friendly. Sometimes it's necessary to discipline. But Srila Prabhupada is so, because he has the qualities of a devotee, pure devotee. I was giving Srila Prabhupada massage, and I said, maybe if you put your feet up sometimes, because supposedly it seemed the idea was that Srila Prabhupada's circulation of blood is not so good, and therefore massaging his body is for stimulating circulation. So he warns us in different, not to judge, also in Nectar of Instruction, not to think of the spiritual master in terms of his physical appearance. It is a great offense we should have to understand who he really is. He's playing so many roles that are, so you say, spiritual master, MTM, MTM. Today we live in the world of acronyms. Everything has letters. Met the man. So people are being given special appreciation because they met the man. And we have to understand that all of those men who were taking the role of guru to replace Srila Prabhupada, as we even planning it before he departed from our vision, they had all met the man, and they became the greatest offenders to Srila Prabhupada. So one should just try to understand one thing, very important, that one can come to Krishna consciousness today and be more advanced spiritually than all of us. Why? Because he has to only open his heart and be receptive to Srila Prabhupada. From him, Krishna Prem emanates. To be receptive, to be submissive, submission. And therefore, Krishna says, you go to him, you inquire submissively, and render service unto him. He can impart this knowledge into your heart because he has this, the darshan, tattva of the supreme absolute truth. Tattva darshanaha. And so Srila Prabhupada says there's two kinds of Krishna. There's the master Krishna and the servant Krishna. Krishna and his devotees, they're not different. Srila Prabhupada is the servant Krishna. And it's only from such a person that one can learn what is this love of God. It is not a point-earning process. It's causeless mercy. Causeless mercy means you can't earn it, you can't deserve it. Causeless mercy means it's there for everyone. From him this love of God emanates. And causeless mercy means to be submissive enough to receive it. And to be submissive enough to receive it means that, Prabhu, oh Master, be merciful unto me. Let me understand your presence. Let me imbibe that feeling into my heart so I can cultivate Krishna consciousness under the guidance of a pure devotee. There's no other way. Hare Krishna.
Let us proceed with our reading of Srimad Bhagavatam. Ram Raghava Prabhu, kindly go ahead.
Okay, Prabhu, thank you. I would like to, as I promised, read the translation, which is the accurate translation. And this is from page 39 of the original songbook, Songs of the Vaishnava-Acharyas, that was published in 1974. Sri Radha Madhava have their loving pastimes in the groves, Kunja of Vrindavan. Gopi Jana Vallabha means one who attracts and reciprocates loving pastimes with the gopis. Girivaradhari is Krishna's name in the pastime of lifting Govardhan hill. Yaśodā-nandan is the son of Yaśoda. Nanda means son and is also the name of Krishna's father. So Krishna is also Nandanandan. Brajajana Ranjana means the attractive darling of the inhabitants of Vrindavan. He is always playing in the groves, vana, of the bank, tira, of the Yamuna river. Therefore, Krishna is also known as Yamuna Tira Vanachari. And the songbook also has this wonderful pastime of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada is very fond of this song and sings it just before his lectures. In Allahabad and Gorakhpur, Srila Prabhupada fell into a trance after singing the first two lines, and after some time, he came back into external consciousness and said, "Now just chant Hare Krishna." Srila Prabhupada says that this song is a picture of Vrindavan, unquote. Everything is there. Srimati Radharani, Vrindavan, Govardhan, Yashoda, and all the cowherd boys. So
Sai. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yaśodā-nandana Dāsa Yaśodā-nandana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha
Jayom Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajaka Acharya Ashtottara Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai. Jai Om Swahasaram Sukribrajagacharya Siddhara Sadasyaman Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosvāmī Prabhupāda Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Sri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Sam Kund Radha Kund Giridharan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Swami Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Swami Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. Thank you very much.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord, Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. From Srimad Bhagavatam 1:1:1. Narayanam namaskritya. Narayanam namaskritya. Naram cheva narottamam. Naram cheva narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Tato Jayam Mudirayet. Tato Jayam Mudirayet. One should utter the means of conquest, Srimad Bhagavatam, after offering respectful obeisances, 1, to the personality of Godhead Narayana, 2, to the Narayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being, 3, to the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, then 4, to Srila Vyasadeva, the author, from Srimad Bhagavatam 1-4. Welcome everyone to this reading of Srimad Bhagavatam. Today we will be reading from Canto 1, Chapter 8, text number 20. Tata paramaham sanam muninam amalatmanam bhakti yoga bhidanartam katam pachemahi striyaha tata. Besides that, paramaham sanam, of the advanced transcendentalists, muninam, of the great philosophers or mental speculators, amalatmanam, those whose mind is competent to discern between spirit and matter, bhakti yoga, the science of devotional service, bhidanartam, for the matter of executing, katam, why, pashyema, can observe, he certainly, striyaha, the womenfolk. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. You descend yourself for executing the mission of propagating the transcendental science of devotional service unto the heart of the advanced transcendentalists and mental speculationists who are purified by discerning between matter and spirit. How then we the womenfolk can know you perfectly? Purport. Even the greatest philosophical speculationists cannot have any access in the region of the Lord. It is said in the Upanishads that the supreme truth, absolute personality of Godhead, is beyond the range of thinking power of the greatest philosopher. As such, is unknowable by great learning or by the greatest brain. Is only knowable by one who has his mercy only. Others may go on thinking about him for years together, yet is unknowable. This very fact is corroborated by the queen, and she is playing the part of an innocent woman. The women folk as a class are unable to speculate like a philosopher, but they are blessed by the Lord because they believe at once in the superiority and the almightiness of the Lord, and thus offers obeisances without any reservation. The Lord is so kind that he does not show any special favor to anyone who is a great philosopher. He knows the sincerity of purpose. For this reason only, the women folk generally assemble in greater number in any sort of religious function. In every country and in every sect of religion, it appears that the women folks are more interested than the opposite sex. This simplicity of acceptance of the authority of the Lord by anyone is more effective than showy religious fervor without any sincerity of purpose. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shugurabhe Namaha Namaum Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Gurave Namaha Bhagavad Vandana Kadhyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Charkara Yuktam Kadatehi Visheshataha Adadhanastrinam Danteridam Yachi Punaha Punaha Srimadru Papadam Bhojadulisyam Janma Janmani Amsho Bhagavatosmyaham Sadadaso Asmi Sarvata Tat Kripa Pikshako Nityam Tat Preshta Sat Karomi Swam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Very important point that Prabhupada is raising in the purport here. We see in the prayers of Kunti Devi that she's expressing her love for Krishna, expressing a very humble, meek attitude. And Prabhupada explains in the purport that women in general are more inclined towards the authority of the Lord and devotion to the Lord than men in general. And this is seen, we have seen in India, they organize big pandal programs, and the women usually will be very interested, and they'll be participating eagerly, whereas the men a lot of time are doing as a sort of convenience. So this is the situation all over the world, but this is the natural tendency. And this very important point that Prabhupada is raising, that in the Shastras, specifically in Upanishad, there is description that one cannot approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead by mere intellect, by mere intelligence. This is a quotation from the Katha Upanishad, Nayamatma pravachena labhya na medhaya na bahuna shrutena. In other words, one cannot approach the Lord simply by the strength of one's erudition or power of mental speculation. Now, this is a very important point because we see in the Brahma Samhita, it is explained by Lord Brahma, Vedeshu durlabam adurlabam atma bhakto, in continuation of our discussion about Brahmana and Vaishnava, in order to understand the position of the personality of Godhead Krishna. It is not done strictly by just Vedic study. One has to become a confidential devotee. But the next question will be, well, how do you become a confidential devotee? One has to take shelter and imbibe the devotional attitude, sentiment, and mentality of a fully realized pure devotee. This is the point. This is what Prabhupada was trying to teach us. Here's a nice quote here. Nayamatma pravachena labhya na medhaya na bahuna shrutena yame vesha vrunute tena labhyas tasyesha atma vivrunute tanum svam The Supreme Lord is not obtained by expert explanation, by vast intelligence, nor even by much hearing. He is obtained only by one whom he himself chooses. To such a person, he manifests his own form. This is also from Brahma Samhita, chapter 5, text 33. Vedeshu durlabam adurlabam atma bhakto. Translation. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is inaccessible to the Vedas, but obtainable by pure unalloyed devotion of the soul, who is without a second, who is not subject to decay, is without a beginning, whose form is endless, who is the beginning and the eternal Purusha. Yet he is a person possessing the beauty of blossoming youth. Prabhupada explained, whoops. Okay.
Sorry about that. I'll put it back on.
Okay, because there's some very important point raised by Srila Prabhupada there. But thank you for bringing that quote. Advaita means indivisible truth, who is knowledge absolute. Brahman, the infinite, emanates from him as his effulgence, and God immanent, Paramatma, as his constituent. But nevertheless, he remains one and indivisible. Achyuta means that through myriads of avatars emanate from him as subjective portions and millions of jivas as separated spiritual particles, still he remains intact as the undivided whole of fullest perfection. Though he indulges in exhibiting the pastimes of birth, etc., still he is without a beginning. Though he disappears after the pastimes of his appearance, still he is eternal. Though without origin, yet he is within an origin in his pastimes of appearance. And although eternal in essence, he is still a person in a full blossom of youth. The sum and substance of it is that though he possesses diverse and apparently mutually contradictory qualities, still they are in universal harmonious concordance by dint of his unthinkable potency. This is what is meant by Chid Dharma, transcendental nature, as distinguished from the material. His graceful threefold bending form with flute in hand possesses eternal blooming youth, and is above all unwholesomeness that is to be found in limited time and space. In the transcendental realm, there is no past and future, but only the unalloyed and immutable present time. In the transcendental sphere, there is no distinction between the object and its qualities, and no such identity as is found in the limited mundane region. Hence, those qualities that seem to be apparently contradictory in the light of mundane conception, limited by time and space, exist in agreeable and dainty concordance in the spiritual realm. How can the jiva realize such unprecedented existence? The limited intellectual function of the jiva is always contaminated by the influence of time and space, and is therefore not in a position to shake off this limitedness. If the potency of cognitive function does not extend to the realization of the transcendental, what else can? In reply, Brahma says that the transcendental absolute is beyond the reach of the Vedas. The Vedas originate in sound, and sound originates in the mundane ether. So the Vedas cannot present before us a direct view of the transcendental world, Goloka. It is only when the Vedas are imbued with the Chit potency that they are enabled to deal with the transcendental. But Goloka reveals itself to every jiva soul when he is under the influence of the spiritual cognitive potency joined to the essence of ecstatic energy. The ecstatic function of devotion is boundless and is surcharged with unalloyed transcendental knowledge. So in other words, one can only understand the process of the absolute truth, the personality of Krishna, through devotion. This is very important. Hare Krishna. Ram Raghava, what comments would you have? Also, I wanted to hear from Neil Sharma if he's still there.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. No comments right now. Neil Sharma, I believe.
Is he there?
No, he's no longer here.
Andabaya Mataji, what is your bhashya? Where is she? Is she there?
Yes.
Andabaya Mataji.
Yeah, she's visiting the ladies' room.
Okay, no problem. Would you like to make a comment, Jiva Goswami Prabhu?
I just am amazed at how Prabhupada has given us such a complex and diverse teaching in such a simple way that even I can understand it. Because basically, to get to the understanding of all these concepts and all these people and all these wonderful devotees that have come before us is beyond my comprehension. And yet he makes it easy. Just chant Hare Krishna.
Very important point. There is a conversation in the Prabhupada conversation book where Prabhupada discusses the power of the chanting. And Prabhupada said, even if you do not understand, even if you cannot read, if you just chant purely, you will understand everything. All the realizations were given. And he gave the example of Gorkishore Das Babaji, who was supposedly illiterate, but yet he was the guru of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, whom Prabhupada called a walking encyclopedia. So Prabhupada said that is the power of the chanting. Very, very powerful chanting. Hare Krishna. Thank you for your comments, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. I also wanted to point out something. The translation that you just read of the Brahma Samhita, I believe, is the translation and purport by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And you can tell from the purport how erudite and sometimes a little difficult to understand it is. And although Srila Prabhupada also has some very, very, very deep purports, generally he made his books understandable for the general mass of people in this age. So I was appreciating that.
Very good point. There's a question that's been raised by a devotee named Chaitanya Prabhu. How is it that women are considered less intelligent when they are the ones taking up the process easily? Well, this has to do basically with bodily function of being born in a certain body. It has nothing to do with the spiritual nature, because spiritually we're all Aham Brahmasmi. A woman is not a body. She is a spirit soul who by their previous karma has taken shelter in that body. But ultimately, men and women are all spirit souls. There is no such thing as a woman's spirit soul or a man's spirit soul. But generally, women are more inclined. I mean, I've personally seen in our movement, the women did a tremendous amount of service with preaching, cooking, book distribution, doing so much service with the deities. Actually, in India, if you look at all the big temples, where all over India, they don't have women doing the puja for the major deity, even in Vrindavan, Radha Damodar, Radha Raman, Radha Śyāmānanda, in South India, Sri Rangam, Udupi, all these places, Jagannath Puri, the women are not allowed to do puja. It's a tradition, basically. But no one is prevented from engaging in devotion, regardless of their level of intelligence or more intelligence or less. That's why that verse from the Katha Upanishad is very important. Nayamatma pravachana labhya nampuna shrutena. Na medaya. Medaya means intelligence. Somebody may be most intelligent, but yet not able to comprehend how one is a spirit soul. As we see in the Bhagavad Gita in the chapter 2, there is a verse, Ascharyavat, where Krishna describes that some hear about the soul, they still cannot understand. And even though someone may, be a devotee, have the dress of a devotee, sometimes we see they cannot comprehend. So plus we see in the Nectar of Devotion, for example, Prabhupada explains that generally a person cannot take to this process of bhakti unless they've done this in a previous life. How do we know what a particular woman or child or devotee, regardless of how long one may have been a devotee, what they have done in their previous life? They may have been a very advanced devotee. In this life, they're getting a chance to continue or make more advancement. Or finish the whole process. So we cannot judge just by the bodily feature of the person how spiritually advanced they are. That is a wrong understanding. Yes, Dharma Bhavana, give us your bhashya.
Oh, Hare Krishna, thank you. Yeah, I had just to kind of follow up on what you spoke about before. Whenever I read the part in Chaitanya Chart and read about the Nitya Siddha devotees, the Sadhana Siddha and Kripa Siddha devotees, it's always emphasized so much, like you spoke today, that the Kripa Siddha is somewhat rare. Sadhana Siddha appears to be more common. And these Nitya Siddha devotees, the associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, were very, very special, and we should not think of them as ordinary devotees at all. So we already spoke about that. But yesterday I was speaking to a few gentlemen, and we were talking about the how since Prabhupada has left this planet, his physical manifestation, there's been a lot of different kind of branches of people who chant the holy names and interpret and do things so many different ways. And the other gentleman said, well, Krishna knows everything. He is all powerful, and all his devotees should just try to get along with each other. And I was explaining to him that for actually what has happened, because the purity is so important. If we don't follow things in a pure, perfect way, the way Lord Prabhupada gave it to us, then it becomes almost the same thing as material life. So I could you just comment upon that a little bit? Thank you.
Well, this is a very important point. On one hand, we're being told in the Shastra and Prabhupada's instructions to be respectful of all Vaishnavas. We don't want to disrespect any Vaishnava, even Vaishnavas whom we may not necessarily agree with. That is a very important point. On the other hand, we are being told by Srila Prabhupada to use our discrimination to intelligently ascertain what is the proper way of association, what is the proper way of understanding. Because we see in spiritual life that while Krishna is most merciful and gives a chance to everyone to take the process, that is Krishna's mercy on everyone. But it's up to the devotees to use their intelligence to intelligently discriminate what is the proper process of understanding whom to associate with. For example, in the Padma Purana, Prabhupada quoted that verse one time in a morning walk in Hawaii, Guravo Bahavo Shanti Shishya Vittapaharakaha, that in the Kali Yuga, there will be many gurus or very expert, Shishya Vittapa, to take the wealth of the disciple. Durlabha Sadguru Devi Shishya Santapaharakaha. This is Lord Shiva speaking to his wife Devi. But it is very rare to find a bona fide Vaishnava guru who can take away the misery of the disciple. Now, this is a very important point because we see from practical observation that many persons are professing or presenting themselves as gurus, but yet the behavior and their understanding and their following of the Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, is not proper. There are so many deviations. So we have to be, on one hand, we are told not to criticize. We don't want to unnecessarily criticize. At the same time, we cannot give up our intelligence and our discrimination power to properly see what is the situation. This is a very important point, that we have to very intelligently ascertain what is the proper way of understanding the truth. Because if somebody says, well, you should just follow, don't criticize, well, that's nice. So how do we explain all these deviations, especially from persons who had so much direct association with Prabhupada? That's why we see in the Bhagavatam, in the 3rd canto, chapter 29, text number 8, Prabhupada explains, quote, one who approaches the Supreme Lord to render devotional service, who is proud of his personality, envious of others, or vengeful, is in the mode of anger. He thinks that he is the best devotee. Devotional service executed in this way is not pure. It is mixed and is of the lowest grade, tamasaha. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur advises that a Vaishnava who is not of good character should be avoided. A Vaishnava is one who has taken the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the ultimate goal of life. But if one is not pure and still has motive, then he is not a Vaishnava of the first order of good character. One may offer his respect to such a Vaishnava because he has accepted the Supreme Lord as the ultimate goal of life, but one should not keep company with a Vaishnava who is in a mode of ignorance. So this is quite self-evident from Srila Prabhupada. I hope that helps.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Vijay Pandit Prabhu has his hand raised for a question.
Okay, please go ahead, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. I don't know if this question is in context with all of you, what you say, but it came in my mind. And the question is, if a disciple has gravely offended Srila Prabhupada and has never asked for forgiveness or pardon for that offense, could Srila Prabhupada still appear to him at the time of his departure, just before that devotee leaves his body, despite having committed such a grave offense?
Why not? Just like Krishna is independent, he can bestow his mercy towards anyone, so is the pure devotee of Krishna. I'm speaking of a fully realized, topmost pure devotee of Krishna. He can give his mercy to anyone at any time. Of course, if one does not repent or one does not change the mentality, just like, for example, let me put this in context. The issue sometimes comes up with devotees who say that all of Prabhupada's disciples will go back to Godhead. And Prabhupada wrote a letter in 1969 saying that he will remain in the universe as long as all of his disciples are not delivered. But then Prabhupada also adds, but if one disrespects the instruction or disobeys the instruction of the spiritual master, he cannot expect help from the spiritual master. In other words, this is conditional upon the devotee following the instruction or trying to follow the instruction of the spiritual master. This is very similar to the point that's raised in Hari Bhaktivedanta about chanting the holy name in the neophyte stage where devotees still have offenses. They're still making offenses. So the point is, what should a devotee do? And Sanatana Goswami and Gopal Bhatta Goswami, they quote a verse from the Padma Purana. It says, Bhumos kalitapananam, bhumireva alambanam, twayi jata paradanam, twameva sharanam prabhu. That I take shelter of you, my dear Lord, you are known as Prabhu, the master. And then Srila Prabhupada, the verse says that just like one can go up a slippery stairway by trying again and again and again, similarly, by chanting again and again and trying, eventually one will come to the platform. Of course, one has to strive to avoid offenses. And if one tries, he will get some mercy. Because I know in Hawaii, there was an incident where one devotee who had a lot of followers, the point was being made that these devotees were not very strict. They were chanting Hare Krishna, go surfing, bring Lord Jagannath on a surfing board, keeping long hair, following some of the principles. So Prabhupada, when he was raised, when this point was raised to him, he says, yes, chanting is always beneficial. He gave the example, it's just like churning sandalwood. There's a certain way of churning sandalwood. You can do it another way, like a pencil, but it would just take longer. So similarly, if one chants but doesn't try to clear the offenses, it may take much longer, like a couple million years, unquote. So in other words, one has to try to follow the process, even though there may be difficulties. And in this way, gradually one will get the mercy. I hope that helps.
Ishan Prabhu has his hand up.
Yes, Ishan Prabhu, please.
On the subject that was asked, raised by Vijaya, Srila Prabhupada explains that pure devotee is very, very kind. He may forgive, but Krishna will not forgive anyone who offends his pure devotee. We have, there are different examples in our scripture. The one that comes to mind first, that Durvasa Muni, Maharaj Ambarish, Maharaj Ambarish did, Durvasa Muni wanted respect, and Maharaj Ambarish, knows he should feed the sage, Durvasa, before he takes his own prasadam, but he had to break Ekadasi within a certain time frame. Durvasa was not there, so he took a little sip of water to break Ekadasi. So Durvasa was so angry that he, with his mystic power, he made a mantra that a horrible demon appeared, and he sent them after Maharaj Shambharish. So the Lord Krishna's Sudarshan Chakra appeared, chasing Durvasa Muni all over the universe. And he went to different devas, different demigods, Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma. He went to Krishna. Krishna says, you can be forgiven. You go back and you place yourself at the feet of my pure devotee, and then the Sudarshan Chakra will stop to finish you. So there are different stories like that the pure devotee may forgive, but Krishna will not allow his pure devotee to be insulted, to be offended. He will take steps like that. So that's one other point of view to the question, that if he didn't try to apologize to Srila Prabhupada, would he be able to get Krishna's mercy at the time of death? So this is a teaching that we should be very, very careful that Srila Prabhupada may forgive Krishna. He loves his devotees so much, he will not allow it. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Unfortunately, we are out of time. So we could please go to the Vanchakalpa prayers and the announcements. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu.
Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances. We all offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like these are trees, and who are full of compassion for the fallen souls. Thanks, everybody, for participating. Thank Ram Raghava Prabhu for conducting the program, Ishan Prabhu for his very nice and insightful comments, and everybody participating. Krishna Katha Prabhu with his help with distributing the Bhagavatam. Anybody who would like to obtain the Srimad Bhagavatam original 1962 publication, please contact us. We will make arrangements with you. Vijay Pandit in Italy, and all the devotees participating, we greatly appreciate your help. We just want to make a brief announcement regarding Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja coming up in the beginning of September. I believe it's September 5th on Saturday. We're preparing some Vyasa Puja offering, and we want everybody, would like to request you, humbly request you, to send your offerings. Even though it's a brief offering, you can, even whether it's 2 lines or 20 pages, it doesn't matter. We will publish it on our website, also some electronic publication. Please send your offerings either to myself, Ram Raghava, or Rupa Goswami, and we will make sure that your offering is published. Take a few minutes of your precious time and kindly do that. We greatly appreciate it. Just a brief announcement. In the middle of July, I believe 18th or 19th, I have to attend to some personal business in Southern California. I do not know what kind of communication facilities I will have. I will let you know the exact time and everything and date. So somebody may have to help with the reading, but I know your good self, Ram Raghava, and Ishan Prabhu are there. You can conduct the reading. I'll prepare some written material and everything. But I don't know, again, what kind of facility I'll have for communication out there, because I don't have a laptop or, a traveling computer with me. The cell phone is very limited to what I can do. Again, thanks, everybody. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna.